This is not another stream. This is the moment we show up. Real talk, real truth, real people, ready to ride. No filter, no fluff, just raw conversation that hits where it matters. Welcome to the revolution of You Become You Live. Let's go live in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hit it! Hey, Peter. How are you, buddy? Are you muted? Let's see what's going on with Peter. Welcome to a live television show or podcast. And we'll see in a second. I can't hear you. Hey, Jackie. So what I'm going to do, Peter, if it's okay with you, is I'm going to just start off while you figure out your mic situation. Is that cool?
Can you hear me now?
I sure can. There we go. Like a Verizon commercial.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what's been going on with my computer audio. I have to use my AirPods, so oh well.
There you go.
Figure that out.
I am so excited to be here with you. I've been June and July. I took some time off, which sounds very, very strange for someone who is not employed. But you know, we always need to refresh. What have you been up to?
Still on the job hunt.
Like we all are. So everyone, Peter is he's my LinkedIn friend, and I really appreciate you coming on today, and I appreciate our friendship on LinkedIn and all that you have done to help me during my career search. And we'll talk about that after we talk about everything else. So today's show is going to be a little bit different because Peter and I have a few talking points we want to go through, and then we're going to just have a discussion. And what we want to do is we want to invite all of you guys to join in on the conversation. Tell us how you've been impacted, and then we'll go from there. So if you want to be on stage, it will be the second segment, and just let us know, and one of us will send you a link. I am William Rochelle, but you can call me Bill. Welcome to UBU Live. And today's episode isn't just a conversation, it's more of a wake-up call. Because something's happening across America that isn't getting the attention it deserves. We are witnessing mass layoffs, silent ones, targeted ones, and systematic ones. You don't see it in the headlines every day. You don't hear about it in the White House press briefs. But across the country, real people, are being laid off for no reason, other than the C-suite or Doge or the powers that be, whoever you want to attribute this to, decided to restructure. And restructure is corporate speak for we cut the people we thought we could. The scariest part to me, Peter, is it's not people who just started. You know, normally it's first in, first out. It's the people who've been there for decades, sometimes two, who've led teams and delivered results, navigated crises, I can never say that word, I can never say many words. And in spite of that, stayed loyal. You know what? It feels like it's really about value in my emotional mind, right? Not the kind that you find on a balance sheet, but the kind that determines who gets to stay and who gets quietly erased. And when that happens to you, and yeah, I'm speaking from experience, there's a psychological shift that occurs, one that nobody really prepares you for. We talk a lot about economic indicators, stock market resilience, our GDP growth, but we don't talk about the emotional cost of being discarded. And that's exactly how it feels. You lose your income, yes, but you also lose your rhythm. For me, I lost my identity a little bit, um, community, and your sense of belonging. You go from being important to being irrelevant in one email. That's that's difficult to deal with. And yet we're told the economy is strong, that hiring is up, that wages are growing, but the reality many of us are living tells a completely different story. So today we're going to strip away the PR. We're going to talk real truth. We're going to name what's actually happening and how we heal from it, how we heal from it and grow from it. And, thanks to Peter, in some cases, how we lead through it. It's interesting because Peter actually did, and we live streamed it, a mock interview for me. Literally, I gave him the job description, I gave him my resume. We didn't discuss topics, and we went live and we had a Zoom interview. And I nailed it according to him.
No, you did good.
I didn't nail it according to the hiring manager. So there's a lot in there, but that's enough for me, Peter.
Hmm.
Let over to you.
You're intriguing me because that's the main thing. I want to know what happened, especially now that you said that. I am curious though, because so being on the recruiting side, I get to be the one to tell these people that they're being laid off sometimes or they didn't get the job. And one of those things is that I'm not at the level of C-suite or vice president, whatever the hierarchy is of a company. So I'm curious. Before I go into any stats, I am curious because you've been in the VP, you've been in the C-suite. I wanted to understand from your experience, what does that look like for you, if any, and when it comes to any letting people go or layoffs?
So that's a very great question. Uh, it is it Michael LeBlanc. I would love for you to come up in our second segment, and I want to hear from you. That's an interesting question. So, in every company that I've run or been a part of or had an executive position with, we run very, very lean, and we also promote internally. So we're always backfilling a an entry level position as we move our team up. So there's only been one time where I've laid off 40 people at once. Actually, it's been a couple of times, actually, but 40 was like like a big chunk. And the reason why that happened was because our founders at the time uh, hired a bunch of people in development. So we were running jdate.com and we had our developers and they were really fantastic. And then Yahoo went through a point where they reduced their development staff. And so our team was like, yeah, let's hire all the Yahoo people. Because that was when Yahoo was a Google.
Hmm.
Uh, we did that without thinking. And I'm that's the collective we. Um, And then we realized that when you hire, 40 people at $200,000 a pop, that you
Mhm.
burn through cash very, very quickly.
Mhm.
And it also had an effect on the morale of the existing development team because they were feeling displaced. So,
Mhm.
because of the burn rate, I was just handed down a list. And I was told, these are the people that are leaving.
Mhm.
I recognized it before it happened. I wasn't told. Uh, but I was told maybe a day or you know how it goes, like a day
Mhm.
or two, like this is happening. But I was in those meetings where they were talking about burn rate and making adjustments and all that. So the the takeaway that I received from that, from everybody in the company, was that they've never seen 40 people let go that walked out with smiles on their face.
Hmm.
The reason why they left walked out with smiles on their face is because prior to letting them go, I did several different things. The first thing is I prepared some of the largest recruiting firms to know that we would be letting people go.
Mhm.
So each one of them walked out with a packet of four different technical recruiters that they
Mhm.
could reach out that had a high impact in their field. So they weren't released and said, "See ya." No,
Mhm.
they were released and they were told, "Go here, do this." Um, they weren't released because they did a bad job. They were released because we hired too quickly. Give me a second,
Mhm.
please, because I have to plug in my laptop, which I forgot to do. Otherwise, welcome to live podcasting, guys. Otherwise,
Mhm.
everyone's going to be removed. All right, there we go.
Right.
I have power. Um, I also, contacted uh, various organizations that help people deal with getting back into the market. So you have two different things, right? I have recruiters that are waiting for their call, and
Mhm.
I have a basically an emotional support team that,
Mhm.
if you need to talk about anything, go here. So when they left with dignity. They left with a firm understanding that it was not them. Uh, and they left with direction.
Mhm.
And there's another part of this too. They some people some people don't approve of this, but we didn't do the one at a time. I brought all 40 into a room
Mhm.
and I had a conversation with all 40 because it wasn't a disciplinary release. It was a departmental reduction. So nobody sat at their desk fearful of a phone call.
Mhm.
It was one and done. And I highly recommend that.
Mhm.
When you're considering layoffs, don't do one every other week because people are going to start looking for jobs. They're going to start getting freaked out. Um, because we're talking layoffs. We're not talking about termination for reason,
Mhm.
right? So I firmly believe in that. I firmly believe in saying, look, keep in touch. I want to help you any way I can. If you need a reference, you can use me. So they weren't just like when I was a kid, my grandfather just threw me in the pool and said swim. That
Mhm.
I didn't do that. These are people. These are human beings. And being let go can change the direction of your life,
Mhm.
especially if you don't have the tools that you need. Because some people go into a deep depression. Some people start drinking. Some people, there's all these things. So I never, I make conscious, intentional decisions in my career and how I deal and speak with the team. So I never fire in, sorry, I never let go of anyone on a Friday
Mhm.
because that gives them all weekend to further get down that path of despair. I normally do it on a Tuesday afternoon because it gives them Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday to make those connections and get themselves together and to get back on the saddle, right? Um, and I never do it on Monday simply because in my world, because my world is very, very fast paced, you never know what's going to be thrown at you on a Monday. And I want to be able to give my 100% attention to that person. So a Tuesday afternoon works really well. I can decompress, I'm ready for it, and I'm not like on a Monday worried about like the other fires I need to put out. So I'm rushing through this. And then after I did it, anyone that wanted to come and talk to me personally, we can definitely do that. You know, come on, my office is still open. You're still in good standing. This is just a financial reason. Did I answer your question?
No, you did that. That was my next little question I wanted to ask you was that did you specifically tell them it was for financial reasons and you just answered it.
Yeah,
But yeah.
transparency, my friend. And then after that, I called it. I had a complete staff meeting, and um, I advised them of the same thing that these people had been let go,
Mhm.
but I also let them understand what the financial reasons were. So remember, I told you we hired because Yahoo laid off.
Mhm.
That wasn't in our budget.
Mhm.
It wasn't in our budget. So um, I, I just shared, we overspent from
Mhm.
a payroll perspective, and we had to make decisions, and this decision will right the ship rather quickly. So the company was not insolvent. The company was not doing poorly, but we could not continue with 40 people making $200,000 a piece. It just didn't. It didn't happen. You know, it didn't. It
Sure.
did not make financial sense.
Mhm.
So the people that did stay weren't going to look for a job because they felt more comfortable because
Mhm.
they're like, I get it. We just saved, I can't do math. Do 2 million times
Yeah.
$200,000 times 40. That's a big, big grip back in your pocket. And
Sure.
this was in 2000. So that would translate to a salary of what, $300,000 today, 350 maybe.
Mhm.
So it saved um it saved the company from destruction. It saved the morale because you had a new regime and an old regime, and they weren't connecting. So there was that fight. You you guys did this, and you've taken it as far as you can go from a development perspective. But we're from Yahoo. So now we're going to really take it, and it never happened. There was so much red tape at Yahoo, and we were
Mhm.
a scrappy young company that just walked in and said, "All right, this is what we're going to do." So a shift was made, and I think we did it in the best possible way. $8 million a year. Thank you, Michael.
Mhm.
So that one day we saved $8 million for the company.
Yep.
And we weren't getting that back in revenue. Like even if they had even if they had done stellar, well, we were a $90 million company, but after you take everything out, that's 10% right there for a group, and that was only one group of a
Mhm.
several hundred thousand, several hundred people within the organization.
Sure. Were there any repercussions on the leadership team for making that mistake?
No, because the leadership team were the founders. So when you're working, mm, when you're working for startups, you have to be able to manage up and down.
Mhm.
So and I love Joe Shapira and Alon Carmel, but they would meet people on the airplane and be sitting there in first class, and then they would come back to me and say, William, I met this guy. He's fantastic. We should hire him. And I would go, Joe, we can't. We don't have a job for him. Like,
Mhm.
just I understand that you met this guy. Or,
Mhm.
one day he said, William, I was roller skating at Venice Beach, and the guy he gave such great customer service. I think we should hire him as our customer service manager. And I'm like, Joe, that's not how it works.
Mhm.
The skate guy, I'm sure he was great. And when I did the obligatory, let me call him, and the guy's first question he asked is, do I have to come into the office every day? This was a beach guy, right? He might have given you great customer service, but he's enjoying life selling roller skates on the beach. That's what he wants to do. He's not looking to come into an office every day. So I dodged a bullet on that one because he just didn't want to do it. Um,
Mhm.
but anyway, I'm sure you have other things to talk about besides me. Uh,
No, I mean, the main reason why I ask is that so whenever I've been on, including all forms of audio and video calls over LinkedIn, we all talk about subjects like this, but my biggest thing was that I haven't been able to be in direct contact with somebody who could legitimately explain why things are happening. We have theories. One of my theories is financial irresponsibility, which you mentioned. So I appreciate the real example of that. Um, but also, it's just, it's obviously a bad thing when layoff happens, whether it's financial irresponsibility or the other theory is that the higher ups want a bigger bonus check at the end of the year. You know,
no,
s-
so I hear that. I hear what you're saying, but remember, we're talking about through my lens. So
mhm,
it has never been that situation for me.
mhm,
I hear about it with
mhm,
you know Walmart. I'm
mhm,
just going to throw them out,
mhm,
but not for me. And for me personally, I have been told, uh, you're doing a great job. We want to give you a bonus.
mhm,
And then I turn around and say, what is my payroll adjustment for my team?
mhm,
And if the company I'm working with is not giving a payroll adjustment, giving me the financials that I need to give my hardest workers a bonus or a raise, I will decline the bonus and say, put that into the budget so that
mhm,
I can give raises or bonuses to the people that support me. Because at my level, I am only as successful as my team,
sure,
right? So,
exactly.
if I'm walking around making tons of money and my team can't afford to feed themselves, then I'm not doing my job. And my job is also not only to deliver for the company, but it is to lead. And so if I'm leading with the intention to grow Peter out of where he's at
Mhm.
into where he wants to be
Mhm.
and to continue to find a career path because Peter is my right hand man.
Mhm.
So it's about me last when it comes to financials because I've always been I don't, I wrote something about finances before,
Mhm.
but I've
Mhm.
always been paid more than what I need. I'm not saying I've always been paid the most.
Mhm.
So, people out there, I know you make more than me. Well, everyone make more than me right
Mhm.
now. But so I get a bonus and I get to pay down my house or those
Mhm.
things are great, but not when someone is on your team is being evicted,
Oh,
right?
sure. Yeah. I mean, I get it. I just appreciate the real world. I mean, not that you were directly responsible for for the decision, but just knowing that there is validity to the financial irresponsibility part of layoffs that your leadership team decided to hire people that they should have never hired in the first place. So
Yeah,
I just appreciate the real world example rather than me just saying that that's a theory that's out there that at least there's the example from you, and then I'm sure that there's plenty others that people may or may not be willing to admit to. But
yeah.
again, I'm not saying that you're a part of it. I'm just saying that the situation that you were a part of, you had to relay the information. You made the best of the situation that you can, but that leadership does make decisions that are financially irresponsible, and it happens. So I just
Yeah,
wanted people to understand that that's reality. That's not just a theory. That from your experience, that is a reality. That is true.
it is, but Michael just said something and I am going to agree with him. Um in one aspect. I'm the exception because of what I said previously, which is I manage up and down.
Hmm.
So if you just listen to me talk, I said Joe would come to me and say, William, and I would say, no, we can't do that.
Hmm.
Um, so he owned the company. He grew the company from his closet. He was the top of the top. He could fire me just because, but he didn't surround himself, nor do I, with people that just agree with me. He hired me for a reason. And if I said no, then he respected that. I didn't always tell him no. I mean, I'm not going to sit there and be a, I pick and choose my battles. But
Hmm.
when I think it's going to affect the company culture or the morale or our bottom line, I am going to speak out. And we can choose, meaning a CEO and I, to have a a professional battle in the conference room or in his office. But once a decision is made, I'm going to support it.
Hmm.
So, once we hired the people from Yahoo, I 100% wanted them to succeed. So it wasn't my call. The other thing I want to say really quick while we're on this topic, then we're going to go to the rest of America because
Hmm. Yep.
I can talk about me forever. When COVID
Hmm.
struck, um, I knew in advance that I owned the company. And I knew that we had gone from $26 million a year to, because of supply chain issues and everything else, under 10. And I knew that our expenses outweighed our revenue. So at about the 90-day mark, 90 days before we actually closed, I let my team know that we were struggling.
Hmm.
And I let them know that I would give them weekly updates so that they can prepare accordingly.
Hmm.
And I don't believe a lot of people do that because they're afraid someone's going to leave. But in my mind, I'm more afraid that I'm going to destroy somebody than them leaving. Meaning they're holding on, and one day I know, 3 months in advance that we only have X amount of runway
Mhm,
to make payroll. So that's a disservice in my mind
mhm,
to keep that private, especially for those that I rely on and I look in their eyes every day and they're trusted advisors and or their customer service reps. It doesn't matter. Everybody's paycheck is important to them.
mhm,
And when you treat people with respect, they actually gave me more support.
mhm,
They actually worked harder. And when I finally came in, because um, you know, we started losing people. When I finally came in and said we can't, it's over, they weren't surprised, and I
mhm,
believe that if you let go of someone, either from a layoff or for cause, that person should not be surprised. So what I mean by that is with cause, a lot of times I've never had to literally fire someone with cause a lot of times because
mhm.
they just don't show up that day because we've had 12 conversations and they
Yeah.
know that uh the last conversation was the last conversation. So they just don't show up. And
Mhm,
I'm like, okay, great. That makes my life so much easier
mhm,
because I have told them. And then the ones that I have had to let go, they're not surprised. So there's
mhm,
no contentious discussion, and there's no. But why? Can I talk to someone else? I don't understand this. No, we
mhm.
we've talked about this, and I am I am someone that unfortunately I give several verbal warnings before I do the first write up, right?
Mhm,
Because I know once I start the write up process, like once you start that, then you need to stick to it.
mhm,
So, and I document the verbals, but it's not a document the verbal and then with an email. We discussed this, so when they get the write up, the first write up, and I think it's what is it, three write ups normally, and
mhm.
then
Something.
you're
Yeah,
talking about
depends on the organization.
yeah. So when it's the end, it's the end.
Mhm.
Anyway, back to today and what's going on.
Sure.
I really want to from you to talk about who's being discarded, you know, what we're seeing in America right now. And
Sure. Yeah, so I mean, on a broad scale, I've found a couple things. I guess one thing, first off, that workers 55 and older are 30% more likely to be laid off than younger professionals. And a little bit of a deeper dive into that is that so this number, so 30% right now, and so then it was actually supposedly 10% back in 1998, and then by 2016, that's where that 30% comes from. And there are a couple of I won't name the exact companies, but they actually are their layoffs comprised. Whenever they did have layoffs, there were a couple times where these two companies over 50% of those layoffs were for that 50 plus range and ended up in lawsuits. But I mean, it's definitely a thing as far as I mean, unfortunately, I'm not going to say exactly who it was, but there was a situation that I was a part of where I didn't get it wasn't layoff related, but it was related to them just even getting an interview with the company, and I mean, personally, I did not care. If you can do the job, great. But but then when I presented this person, they said, "Wait, they're 55 years old?" I said, "Yeah, why does that matter?" And they're like, "Well, we want someone to last for a long time, so we're not even going to consider them
What?
any further." Yeah. So I mean, it is unfortunately a very true thing. Like even before layoffs, is that I have that one specific example of someone actually being rejected from even being considered for an opportunity just because they're 55 years old. Very dumb. I
We'll,
mean,
we'll
again,
we'll we'll talk about that when we talk about the interview that you and I did. But go
sure.
ahead.
Sure. Um, but yeah, I mean, it's as far as like my example, like just being considered, but again, being that at this point we're at the point where 30% of those that are laid off are about to be 55 or more. It's a large chunk of any type of layoff. And then as far as like other groups as well, so black professionals face nearly double the layoff rates of their white counterparts. So a post COVID study found that black men were roughly 73% more likely to be laid off than white men.
Wow.
Likewise, black women were 21.6%, Hispanic 57.8% as well. And then I guess going on into the Latino and Asian workers, especially tech and healthcare, you're seeing for layoffs of 40 to 70% higher than the national average. So, for instance, one study showed that Hispanic men had a 95% higher layoff probability, and Asian men had a 94% higher layoff probability compared to what we're seeing for women. So there's not only as far as like the ethnic groups, but the gender as well. That most likely, not only are these not yeah, are these groups going to be subjected to higher layoff rate, it's also the men that are going to be at the higher layoff rates as well than women. Um, and then also a couple more things I did also want to share is that women, particularly Black and Latina, are being disproportionately cut in roles like HR and education. Again, so Black women were 21.6% more likely. Hispanic women were 57.8% more likely to be laid off than white women. And then one more thing I did also want to share is that we're also seeing uh, you know, at least for the past few years, especially so whenever I was first introduced to any like real DEI initiatives was when I was recruiting for Amazon. And like we had a specific day every Thursday that we would recruit for diversity candidates, DEI, LGBTQ plus candidates as well.
It
So
changes every day.
Oh yeah, yeah. And so, for instance, a human rights campaign survey found that 1 in 5 LGBTQ plus employees said that they consider quitting if DEI efforts were cut, and 72% said they feel less included at work as well. So I mean, overall, what you're seeing is that compared to the white counterparts, that the data is showing that multiple groups are seeing being that bigger part of the layoffs. Plus, if you are a man within those ethnic groups as well, you are more likely than your women counterparts of that ethnic group to also be laid off. So it's a the and it's sad to see that this is a reality. This is data that you can find online for yourself. So it's a sad thing to see when it comes to layoffs.
It's a sad thing to consider that this is America,
Yep.
and um, I have discussions with my friends, colleagues of all races, and and genders and orientations. And surprisingly enough, some of them uh, don't really understand DEI. And I'm like, but you're a black guy, so you're not for it. And he's like, well, no, because the way I look at it different. So we all have a different interpretation of what it actually means, right? But doing away with it is allowing people to really strip people of their strip people of being included. As you said, with the 55 and older, it's not just about ethnicity or gender orientation. It's about all sorts of things like ageism, and I believe that is big. So what you just said hit me right in the chest.
Mhm.
I was not laid off. I was, my business went down because of COVID. Um, but over the last, first of all, we should talk one day about Workday. Did you hear about that lawsuit?
I have not.
All right, so we'll include that in our discussion at the end. So
Okay.
remember that Workday, because I am old. I'll forget, but I'm still young enough to work. Um,
Mm.
I didn't feel like a candidate. I felt like a ghost. So I'd go to LinkedIn. I'd see people celebrating promotion, new roles, company anniversaries, and I just scroll in silence. And um, it would have been easy to disappear, to retreat, to believe the lie that because I wasn't employed, I didn't have any value. But instead, and this is something I learned a long time ago by an author named Ayanla Van Zandt. And what she said was, it's really important what you do in the meantime. Basically, you need to prepare for your blessing. So
Mhm.
instead of retreating, I decided to create a newsletter at first because I said, this is really, really interesting. I did not expect to be in my 50s looking for a job. I didn't. Owning your own company that was doing well, I literally thought that I would just hand over the keys to somebody while I just sat on the beach and had passive income. In addition to creating the newsletter, I created this podcast. And people don't understand why I created the podcast, but I'm going to be very transparent. When you don't have a place to go, when you don't have a schedule, when the weight of the world feels heavy, and you're only talking to two dogs, who, by the way, I have great conversations with, um, you need something to do. So the newsletter helped me get out um, of my head. And the newsletter I created it to uplift me, but I never said this is for me, to me. I just created it. You will get better. Things will work in your favor. Whenever you fall forward. Everything had a theme to it. And it really was things that I needed to hear in that moment. And then the podcast was because of what you said earlier, which is, people don't want to hire someone in their 50s. So I believe I have a very youthful appearance, great energy, and I was like, well, if people just see it, they understand that I have a playful side. I'm not very serious, but I'm very accomplished. Um, it'll be a win-win. And so that's why I created the podcast. And then I started
Mhm.
reaching back out to people, former colleagues, friends, even strangers like April Bowman and you, Pita, that are now my friends, that we are sharing a journey together. And um, it helps because you and I don't talk about our woes, right? We
Mhm,
talk about building each other up. One of my
mhm,
favorite things to do on a Friday night is Noni's, you know, karaoke night or whatever
mhm,
that is.
mhm,
Um, and it's silly because we need a distraction. We need a
mhm,
moment where we can just let go. Now,
mhm,
look, it sounds odd to some of you out there that someone without a job is telling you, you know, what to do to get a job. But
sure,
remember, remember this. I've led departments. I've hired teams. I've trained executives. I've closed $1 million deals. I've built systems that change businesses from the inside out. I am better, and I think I've told you this privately. I'm
mm,
better at promoting Peter than I am at promoting myself. It feels counterintuitive for me
mhm,
to talk about my accomplishments. I need to get better at that. I'm
mhm,
trying to get better at that.
mhm,
Um, Michael, why?
mhm,
But it's you know, interviewing, being the interviewee is not my comfort zone, and I don't know why. So even if I don't have a title today, I haven't lost my talent, and neither
mhm,
have you guys out there. So remember that. Sometimes when we're in the season of transition, we're given a window into rediscovering our voice, not the voice that we were taught, but the voice you had before someone else shaped it. So if you're out there right now wondering what you should do while you wait, don't just wait. Build something. Start something, even if it's small, even if it's messy, because this is messy. Uh, my best friend over there, Peter, him and I couldn't get
mhm,
our audio together in the first five
mhm,
minutes, but we did.
mhm,
And you know what? It's a great conversation, and I really believe someone out there listening is learning because staying visible, staying vocal, staying human in this process is how we reclaim our value. Peter, bring us home right now, and then we'll go into our discussion. Our
sure, sure, yeah. And I mean, just to let you know, I need to I have a I need to leave on at 3, but or 3 my time, so 12 minutes. So
all right.
make it relatively quick here. I mean, you were saying it before. What with, and I'm glad that I'm especially glad that I asked you about your example with any type of layoffs. Is that what whatever part of you of the process you are, whether you're a hiring manager, even just the baseline recruiters, team managers, C-suite, vice president, whatever the hierarchy is that makes the decisions of layoffs, is that my big thing is that treat others the way you wanna be treated. Would you like to be given a heads up? I mean, would you like to be treated with dignity? Yes, so I would highly encourage, to follow everything that Bill talked about earlier in his response to his layoffs, that people were not surprised ultimately, and he set them up for success while they were leaving. So, whichever the part of the process you are, recruiters, hiring managers, team managers, C-suite, president, the C-suite and upper hierarchy, I would encourage anybody that's a part of any notion of the word layoffs. If you know anything about that, I would implore you to be as transparent as you can about the situation and keep people able to be successful after you leave.
Yeah.
Quick story about me. My first layoff, I technically did not know about it. I heard in the news that maybe tech giant, and this is back in um, the fall of 2022, that tech giants were going to be starting to cut budgets. So I technically didn't know, but that was my first layoff, and the way I was told was that my stuff was just cut. I didn't get any warning. All of a sudden, and this was a Friday, so Friday at 2 o'clock my time, I'm doing my stuff. I'm trying to search something. All of a sudden, my feed gets cut off, and I can't do anything. And I'm trying to get a hold of my contractor house. They're not saying anything. I'm trying to get hold of the client manager that I was working with from the client side. Nothing. They didn't tell me anything until 4 o'clock. So 2 hours later, they told me, "Hey, budget's been cut. Don't open your laptop anymore." And essentially just wish you the best. Maybe we'll try to find something for you, but I'm really sorry. And so I would implore you to not do that. I would implore you to do what Bill was talking about earlier, being transparent, setting up people for success, not leaving people in the dark, treat people with respect, dignity, and treat other people the way you would want to treat yourself, which is with respect and dignity and transparency.
Absolutely, absolutely. And that's a very sad layoff story, by the way.
Yeah.
Um, you know, to
Yeah.
me, to me, that leaves people in the lurch,
Yeah.
and you kind of know something's going, or you suspect something is going on,
Mhm.
but you're not positive about it. So
Mhm.
it's I don't like that at all. Hey, Michael, can you
Can
hear
you hear
me?
us?
Greetings from a fellow bald guy. Can you hear me?
I
Yep.
can. So we're gonna let my good friend give his final thoughts, Peter, and unless that was it, and then I'm going to play a video, and this video is what sparked this conversation because Peter and I were talking about uh, just doing a thought of the day yesterday, and then I saw a video, and then I said this should be our topic, and our topic was always going to be about transition in career, but um, this video hit home. I asked her if she would join me. I haven't heard from her yet, but hopefully she's not mad that I'm sharing her video. It is public, so I hope it's okay. Peter, any last thoughts?
Well, if anything, my last thoughts is that it's nice to see your face, Michael. I've heard you in so many different audio calls, but I don't think I've ever seen your face. So it's nice to get a face to you. And I wish I could stick around longer to, I guess, hear anything about what you think about the topic here. Plus,
I
I
know
wanted
what he
to.
thinks.
I really wanted to know what happened with Bill's recent interview. Um, but no, I mean, it's always important to put awareness to these subjects. It's extremely sad, and I'm glad that bringing awareness and also, from Bill's perspective, he brought in solutions that everybody should be doing. Whenever I was hearing you saying everything that you were doing to prepare people for it, at least from what you could do, it's what everybody should do. So I'm sorry that most people aren't like you, Bill.
I thank you very much. I'm learning to accept compliments. Michael, how long have you been looking? I mean, sorry, Peter, how
Over
long have you been looking?
Since mid-March.
Mid March.
Yep.
That that's pretty much, most of us. It's over. It's over. Several months. I think Peter. I mean, sorry, Michael and I have been well over a year. Am I right about that,
Mhm.
Mike? Yeah.
Mm.
So, but we fall into the other category. And Michael, you and I are gonna. I'm gonna show the video. Then you and I are gonna talk about Workday, and we're gonna talk about ageism. Workday. Just so that you know, Peter, you have 6 more minutes.
Yeah.
Uh, so
Yep.
Workday, look it up. I wrote an article about it. They actually were excluding resumes to the employer that they recognized or their technology based upon work history
Mm.
uh, show that the person was over 50. And Workday is a major platform used by many. And just think that every application that Peter and I sent to a company using Workday never got to the company. So with that, you can run like fire, man.
Yeah.
I'm going to try to play this video. As I said earlier, guys, this is a live podcast. I am not the sharpest tool in the shed, so whether or not this actually works or not is two different things. So let me try to do it. Peter, thank you so much, and thank you for being my friend. I really, really do appreciate you. Hopefully, I'll see you on Friday.
Yep. Yep.
All
Bye,
right,
Bill.
man.
Bye, Michael. Good to see you both.
Bye. Hold on, Mike. So how do I do this? Share screen. Share this one. All right. Can you hear her?
I'm not hearing audio.
Okay, so why is that?
I'm not familiar enough with StreamYard.
you
Is
know
there?
I have her muted. Hold on for a second.
There you go.
Based on performance and all these. First, I want to say thank you to everyone who has chimed in on my recent post. The recent posts were about me abruptly being laid off, and just to put a little more, give you a little more background. I sat at the seat of leadership, and for me to be let go, or excuse me, proper framing, to be laid off was not based on performance and all these other things, but a restructure. But I wasn't given the respect that someone at my level should have been given to say, hey, this is the restructure coming down the line, new physical, blah, blah, blah. We're going to do something different, and your position is going to be eliminated. I was never offered that. I was called into a meeting on last Friday. It seems to be that meeting seemed to be very normal, to come to find out that was losing my position. So I get on here just to say thank you to everyone who has chimed in and shared words of encouragement. I've gotten some private messages that I will respond to and on. I'm just really not in my normal headspace. My weekly content of my short storytelling will be delayed this week. I was able to kick out one for Tuesday. When the dress fits wear, whatever, I can't even think of my own themes. And then the Devil Wear Prada, the Devil Wear Shea Butter, it's supposed to drop every Thursday, and I just don't have the capacity to get in to edit it and to sharpen it up and to clean it up to post. So my content may be delayed for sure this week, and I don't know what next week will look like. I just don't have the capacity to dig in from a creative place. So just wanted to say thank you to everyone, and to also let folks know that things will be delayed, especially those who read my content consistently, who've bought into the Devil Wear Shea Butter and the summer series that I've dropped. I've completed the series on Rahab, and I'm going to start a new one on Deborah and Meekness. So soon to come, but just a little delayed. So thank you all. Much appreciation. I'm charging up my car. It takes forever to do here. And I just want to show my gratitude and say thank you to everyone. And that's about it. So until next time, Miss Maine, and enjoy all of the weekend that will bring. I don't celebrate the 4th of July, so whatever it is that you do for this 3-day, 4-day weekend for some, be safe, be well, and continue to count your blessings and lean in to God. It's good to lean into people, into humans, and all the things, but ultimately we have to lean into God. So take care.
So that touched me on multiple levels. And I think the first thing that I noticed was that she was trying to keep a strong face, but she was obviously distraught. And it had affected her emotionally.
Yeah, and knock her off her, content delivery, obviously, right? I mean, come on. Hello. and I think that's also the thing, Bill. I mean, I just wrote, something on an article on authenticity. And I think we need to do, as leaders and just everybody, we need to just get a little more real with each other. And, if it's asking for help, it sounds like she was, getting, at least some psychological, or whatever you want to call it, friends and, supportive, help that way, which is key too. I mean, when you're released sort of suddenly, or, as a surprise to you, like I was, it's traumatic. I mean, my story was I was led to believe the week before, Bill, that I was fine, and then they did the exact opposite of what you did, and they released me on a Friday. They asked me to come in. This was really fun. They asked me to come into the office, and then they released me over Teams.
Like, why?
It was like, Bill, it was like how not to do this, playbook. It was pretty bad. Now, I don't know. I think my boss, well, that was the other thing. I had just been layered, and my boss didn't know. And so my old boss, who was now my boss's boss, was the guy that did it with HR. So
over Teams.
Over Teams.
So, I mean, that's not funny, but did you ask the question, why did you call me in for this?
To be honest, I was so shocked, Bill, because there's a couple different things. I was a senior guy. I thought, at least, that, and I wrote in the comments, there was a lot more gas in the tank relative to what I could bring, right? And I again, when I look back, it's my understanding, actually, that I was brought in for a specific task, unbeknownst to me, of course. And I completed that task. I got them out of a situation that they had kind of gotten themselves into. And so I was, in essence, no longer needed. Now, that doesn't mean that I didn't have anything else to bring. Like I said, I think I did. But, and I really don't think it was a money issue. I just think, to be honest, I think I probably brought a little too much integrity to my position. And
that happens.
So
that literally happened.
Yeah,
I've seen that before, where people are more concerned about doing something than the integrity behind it. They're looking more at the cash versus what's right. They're looking more at, like Peter said, they're looking more at, I don't want to hire this 55-year-old guy because I want someone that's going to last. Are you kidding me?
Like, how do you know that guy's going to last that you hire? First of all, we're in my state, we're at will. So
in every state, it's at will.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know where it's not.
Well, my point is, so what's that about? Because you don't know, if you bring a younger person in, I'm sorry, at least I have a history. I mean, you can see my profile. I have a history of long, work periods. I stay in companies. So what do you think I'm going to leave for? And to be honest, I don't know if I wouldn't mind being a second banana, or maybe even a third banana, as long as I can bring I can move the needle and maybe mentor them.
Yeah.
As long as I can bring value to the company, why don't you focus on that versus, oh, he's not going to be here that long? Because I'm sorry, a younger guy, in my opinion, in my
They don't
experience,
stay.
they don't stay. So
No.
I'm like, what are you thinking? Now, the other thing I've heard, these are excuses. The other thing I've heard is, well, Mike is too old. He can't get along with Jen, whatever, pick one. And I'm like, hey, I got grandkids, so I can get along with pretty much any age. And like I said, I mean, I've dealt with that. I've dealt with that in my career. I was, dealing with younger people in my last position. So I'm not buying, there's quite a few. That's why I wanted to ask Peter, what average age of CEOs that are letting go of people over 50 is. I'd like to know if they're younger as opposed to older. Maybe they are. I don't know.
I would bet it depends on industry. I would bet that if it's a technology company and if it's a new company, you're looking at 35, 40. And that's extremely young to be a CEO, because you have to have some type of business experience, not just book smarts. And you can create a great product, but CEOs come with the experience and the business knowledge. I believe that Mark Zuckerberg is an anomaly to have created Facebook and remained as its CEO, but he probably is surrounded by he's smart enough to be surrounded by people that help him make decisions.
Yeah, my sense was after the initial nonsense, he hired in some talent that could help him run the company.
Yeah, absolutely. So those the additional talent would be the ones that would say, hey, Mark, this is where we need to go. But why is the job search so difficult? I mean, it is. Welcome back, Peter. You're always welcome. How did your 2 o'clock go?
It went super quick. It was just a simple screening. I'd only talked with a recruiter that didn't really know much about the opportunity, so he was just getting all my basic stuff. And then
don't say too much because you are live.
Right. Yeah, 3 days we might hear back from the client. But the thing is, and this is why I'm ideally looking for a corporate or talent acquisition, it's like maybe 2 to 3 days we'll hear back from the client. I've had so many staffing agency recruiters reach out to me over the past month. I would say maybe one of them has actually gotten back to me with a yes or a no. So it's
it's awful. But let's get back to Mike real quick.
Yep.
Because Mike was in the middle of a thought.
Well, why is it so difficult? There's a couple different reasons, and I'm sure you know this, Bill. But once you get above a certain, and I'm not saying it's right, but once you get above a certain level, all of a sudden the decision-making process for that position can take months. Well, I don't want to say years, but it can stretch into 6 months, 8 months. And I think in my case, I think the situation is that particularly right now, they're looking to move that position out of an FTE position into what they call vCISO, fractional CISO, or now field CISO.
So I'm stupid, and I am proud to admit that. So I know what an FTE is, but all those other acronyms, please explain.
Sorry, CISO is Chief Information Security Officer. And that was the title that I held the longest, and that was my target. And just for clarity, I've that's the other thing. I've gone up and down the stack relative to the all of the different titles, And I actually have been refused to go in at a more junior title because they said you're overqualified. So
I
I'm like,
hate
well,
that.
and I'm like, even if I'm willing to do it, and again, I could get in, I could mentor, you could bump up my pay. I'll keep the same title. I don't give a crap what the title is. Just let me, get me in the game, coach. And I think that's so that's part of it. I think in general, Bill, and this is up and down the title stack, that there's this idea that there are more jobs than there actually are. That I mean, and you see this all over LinkedIn. There's like million or hundreds of thousands or whatever. There's not. And now with the advent of AI, and I hate to bring this up, but it's a thing that with AI, they're just basically saying we need less staff. So
That's true. And anyone that believes that AI is not going to replace 50% of the staff, they're crazy, because it can do things like your secretary would, or your administrative assistant would, in 10 seconds. You
in,
know, it can write an email.
in certain roles, I'm going to agree 100%. But the problem, and what I think we're going to see, I think we're on the cusp of the hype cycle, because I think what's going to happen is, and I'm running into this pretty constantly when I'm trying to get things out of the models, is I'm not getting what I need, and part of that is that I don't know if it's the model makers or the frontier model vendors are keeping guidelines to not release. Like, I'll give you an example. I'm just trying to get a list of MSPs, managed service providers, and cybersecurity consulting companies in the greater New York area. It's taking days with, I have the paid version of ChatGPT, and I'm like, this isn't what I what I need AI for. I need to be able to do this in less than an hour. And so I don't know if I'm being throttled by their inner workings. I don't know if I don't
You're
know. I
not.
don't know
You're
the
not.
reason why. So
You're
my
not.
point. So
I'll tell you this. I've done the same thing with complex issues,
Mm,
and it's told me you'll have your information by Sunday, but it's fucking sorry, oops, it's Thursday.
yeah.
So, like, and then I totally forget that I ever sent that request, and I've never gotten an alert from them saying, "Here's the information you asked for." So I'm sorry. It's that is a frustration for me.
Well, see, so this is what I'm saying, and this is a bit of an aside, but it's not, because this is, I think, what the CEOs, the C-suite, is thinking, that across the board. Now, I'm not saying there are absolutely use cases for, and I'm using it for some of them. There's use cases for the LLMs. There's also a whole nother part of which I'm was very involved with, which in AI, which is machine learning. So machine learning is being used a lot by cybersecurity. It's called event correlation. So we need that because this stuff is happening so fast, and such a huge number of events, and they're fast, that we can't do this by human capability anymore. So, and that's been, by the way, Bill, for I don't know, probably 10 years almost. So that's that's long gone, but that doesn't get rid of, all that does is say, I need, a security operations center analysts to be able to take that data and then go chase down, okay, we've raised this as an issue, go chase it down. So, but that doesn't get rid of the need of humans. And I think that's what's going on, is that CEOs are saying, okay, we're going to see a 40x or something increase in productivity, and I think that's going to crash. That hype is going to crash probably either this year or next year, and we'll see with these deployments. Now, like I said, if you're using it for what's called a natural language processor, an NLP, for downstream stuff, and what do I mean by that? Because one of the powers of AI is what they call agentic AI. So you're going to give it to an agent. The agent is going to go to another process or another agent, and it's going to go do what it does, and then it comes back and feeds you all the information. That's where we are headed eventually, and we're kind of in the middle of that. If you look at N8N or Maker, there's a couple other sites, but N8N is the well-known one. So automation is a thing, right? But all that to say, we're just going to get rid of humans. I'm like, nah, don't think so. I actually wrote an article on that too. It's called Human in the Loop.
What do you think?
And
I mean, Peter, I disagree with him, so you can disagree with him.
I mean, so I see so many different things out there about how much percentage of jobs AI could potentially take over, and people even throwing out eventually will be on universal basic income because there won't nearly be enough jobs. And I mean, again, I don't know if I believe that. We'll see what happens in the future, but at bare minimum, we have to have people to maintain the AI. If anything, worst case scenario, I think, is that there's just going to be a shift of, okay, AI gets however advanced we want it to get, but we'll need people to maintain it. So, I
Yeah,
mean,
just like
I'm definitely no, yeah.
just like monitoring a feed, an FTP feed or anything like that. You need someone that monitors that it fails, but there used to be a time when that was the data entry position.
Mhm.
So you can have one person monitor whether or not your 10,000 feeds fail, and then go in there and redo it. The reason why I disagree with Michael, and you guys, this is UBU live, so it means that we can agree to disagree. Because as it gets better, I don't think AI, first of all, AI has advanced extremely fast in the last year, and it's extremely comprehensive. And even the way it reacts and the tone that it selects, it's trained to be a part of your voice. So what you used to need 80 agents for, let's just use customer service, you might need 20, because most of it can be answered via AI, and your people are just approving and then hitting send. So I right now, I wouldn't let AI just send all my emails for me, but I would have it write them for me and then have my team just approve and send, approve and send, approve and send. And then AI can process the refund or whatever, because you can actually have it speak to FedEx to find out where it's at. Oh, your package is it's scheduled to be delivered on this date. Here's a tracking number. Bam. You know, I believe that AI can replace most of your manufacturing components. That's not going to be a human job. And it's really what America is running on, is bringing manufacturing jobs back. That doesn't make sense. Even construction, there's been whole cities built through what do you call it, 3D printing. I don't understand it, Michael. You're more technical than I am, but I do believe that welding and other things will be able to be done by AI and robotics. And I combine the two when I'm talking about human capital versus AI. So that's where I see it.
You've selected, and this is what I was saying, it depends on the use case. You've selected some very narrow. So me as a human, I have the ability to do crap ton of things, right? And I can pivot and do this and that. What I see, even in the quote unquote, it's not general intelligence, but like there's DeepMind and Go, AlphaFold, all these various ones. Okay, you can play Go very well, but I do more than just play Go. So that's not general in the general. Depends on what you mean by general intelligence, right? By general intelligence, I mean you can act like a human, and you can do everything a human can do. We're not there, and I'm not saying, I don't even think they're saying that 100%, but that's kind of their goal. And so I'm saying the stuff that you were talking about. Okay, so I'm going to take a very narrow use case, and for shipping. Okay, I can see where I can go out. I can do analyzation of where the package is. And to your point with robotics, and this is what I was talking about, having an NLP that talks to, for instance, a robot, which is coming, by the way. We're going to have humanoid robots through Tesla and whoever else. So that's coming. But I'm not ready to trust autonomous cars yet.
I just came back from California. Waymo is the thing, and they're all over the city. So
I'm not jumping into one. Bill,
I would. I literally would. Because I sat and I watched it. So I was there for the 4th of July weekend, and there was a parade coming, and the Waymo turned left, but the street was blocked off. So it backed itself up and it rerouted itself. It took a second because the reason why I was watching it is I'm like, what is it going to do? Is it going to barrel through the through the barricades and run over everyone, or what's going to happen here? So it saw the obstruction, it backed itself up, it rerouted itself. So and this is new, right? So at one point 10 years ago, I'm sure that Michael and I could have been having the same conversation. He's from New York and is used to hailing taxis. Hey, and we never would have thought Uber would be the way to go. That people would be getting in strangers' cars. Now, I personally would rather be in a driverless car than in a car with Peter. that I don't know. This random guy picks me up, and where is he going to take me? Is he going to cut me up, and I'm going to be left in a shed somewhere? Like, what's going on? Not really you, Peter, but it's safer for a young woman to get into a driverless car after midnight in a rural area than it would be to get into a car with a man she doesn't know or a woman that she doesn't know.
Yeah, I don't know about a driverless car in the rural areas, mostly because of deer. But anyway, I don't want to argue. I don't want to argue because it's getting a little. Some of this stuff is, like, have you ever driven in New York?
I have. I have. And you're right. So, a Waymo in Manhattan may be pretty complicated.
Yeah.
It's just the way New Yorkers drive. They cut you off. It's not normal.
No, but I'm sure they'll figure it out, right? I mean, they've already, they have this congestion pricing, so there's less traffic, and I'm sure that's changed, things, and they can maybe just have lanes that can only be used by driverless cars. They'll solve it, and that's neither here nor there. I guess what I'm saying is, I just think that CEOs are maybe a little bit ahead of the game when it comes to this envisioning of what LLMs specifically, I want to narrow it down to LLMs, are going to do. And like I said, there are like underwriters, probably good. We already saw they're not going to take over for lawyers. Now, that's not to say that they can't do a paralegal type of thing, but then the problem is that one of the things, and I wrote an article about this, they're very confident about what they produce unless you tell it. And you have to tell it specifically. If you don't know, do not, fill in the blanks, because that's actually what they're programmed to do. They're programmed to be people pleasers, meaning they will actually hallucinate, and they will tell you things, even with stuff that I've fed it about myself. It made up stuff, like I said, here's a JD, here's my resume, write a cover letter, and it made stuff up. I gave you the JD and my resume, and it made stuff up. So I'm like, it's not there yet, but that's not to say it's zero. It's yes, there's going to be value. My concern is that, like I said, hiring decisions or riffing decisions are being made on this stuff even before it's deployed, and I think that's going to be a problem. I would love to know what Peter
I
has
can agree
to.
with that.
I would love to know if Peter has any data on this as to what. And Peter, we had a question for you as to what the median age of the CEOs that are riffing 50 plus, if you knew. If you don't, that's fine. But we were guessing that they may be younger CEOs.
Mhm.
So, I would be very interested to know, what type of companies are riffing due to AI, and like I said, are they very narrow use cases? Like underwriters. Supposedly, that's going to be a big thing, and the LLMs can do underwriting. And like I said, if it's very narrow, if the use case is very narrow, to your point, tracking, shipping and stuff, I can see it. But if you're expecting to plop, take a human out and then plop an LLM in, I'm guessing that's probably not going to work very well yet.
Peter.
Yeah, I was just checking. I don't know the numbers off my head, but the cool thing is that we got different things that we can look at. So one thing I
Is it
saw,
AI?
yeah, AI. Well, because the basic idea of this stuff, at least to my understanding, is that this will pull information from all different sources and culminate it. But the other thing that I've learned with AI is that it'll be slightly different. So, for instance, I've used ChatGPT, I've used Copilot, I've used Gemini, are the big three I've been using, and they all will change their answers slightly. So, I'll check if I really want to. I'll like check myself and see. Okay, and then like for instance, my aunt, whenever I visit her in Kansas City, she has there's apparently I don't know if she named him personally, but this AI bot called Claude apparently that
Yeah.
is another thing too. But there are multiple AI tools that you can look at. I mean, personally, I don't know the numbers off the top of my head as far as how AI is changing the workflow. I mean, just a quick search for me, just one thing that's being thrown at me. So it says it finds that 41% of companies globally expect workforce reductions due to AI over the next 5 years. In the first half of 2025 alone, tech sector's layoff exceeded 62,000 jobs over 60 plus companies, with AI cited as a factor. So they're talking about companies like Microsoft having 6,500 jobs eliminated, and then in May of this year, they've announced 9,000 people will also be laid off in July. So this month, I guess I haven't heard about that, but supposedly it's happening. Um, let's see, Intel is cutting 15 to 20% of foundry services, over 21,000 jobs due to cost and automation. Salesforce and Workday each have cut at least 1,000 roles because of AI. Recruit Holdings,
So
1,300 layoff. Yeah,
let's stop there for a second. I think
yeah.
Mike and I should sue Workday together as a joint venture and say that that's why we're unemployed, because Workday, they've already admitted it's a fact that this has gone on. So okay, now you can talk about Workday again.
I mean that was just it. That now it's just listing out a few companies. So without Salesforce and Workday, 1,000 Recruit Holdings, 1,300 layoffs. Scale AI, 14% of their workforce has been laid off, so 700 people there. CrowdStrike, 500 jobs cut. Expedia, another 500 jobs cut. Hewlett Packard, it doesn't give you
All
the exact numbers,
all
but
due to AI.
yeah, they are citing that these hundreds, if not thousands, of jobs are being laid off because of the efficiency that AI provides.
I want to see what would happens in give it like 2 years.
Right.
And I'm
That,
serious. I'm
yeah.
serious about this because
hmm
where are they in the deployment? Like Copilot. Copilot 365 is kind of already out, and we already had a major vulnerability. Now they patched it, but this is what I'm saying is I'm in cyber, Peter, so
hmm
I have laser focus on this stuff.
hmm
Is Anthropic, which is the people that make
Claude.
Claude,
Yeah.
came out with something called MCP. It's basically how agents are going to talk to the LLMs, right? And there was issues relative to that. So this stuff is happening so fast, and
hmm
they're over their skis relative to privacy. That's a big one, and security. So
hmm
all I'm saying is, yeah, they can get rid of people for the LLM's going to be the next. And I want to be very clear. I'm not a Luddite. I know it's here to stay. I see use cases. I'm using it, but at the same time, I'm seeing where it doesn't work, or where it gives you very bad information. If it's giving you very bad information, Peter, like I'm trying to think, you're looking for people, and this is happening. So
hmm
you're looking for I don't know, a position you're trying to fill. So you
hmm
go out to LinkedIn, for instance, or wherever, and you gather
hmm
all of these resumes. Well, if the AI, and there isn't transparency, by the way, so the AI could be, without you knowing, could be eliminating people.
Yeah.
Or what's happened is now with ATSs, the people are using LLMs to match the JDs. And now people are saying, well, if you're too good of an ATS match, then we're going to reject you because it's AI generated.
hmm
So we have a war of the AI in the ATS and the AI in the LLM. So how are we going to get qualified people?
All right, so let's break that down into real world conversation. So applicant tracking system is an ATS.
Mhm.
Yep.
Uh, the LLM is
Large language model.
large language model, and then
Pick anyone.
you said one more thing.
JD, job description.
Yes, because I keep on. I knew that was job description, but I keep
Yep.
thinking Juris Doctorate every
Yep.
time you say it. That's what I hear in my head. All right, so there you go, Peter. I helped you.
hmm Sure. Appreciate it. Yeah. So that's the thing is that so the first time that I was really so before I worked at Boeing, all of my no one, at least for the jobs I posted, no one was ever taken out because of, so I guess my early version of AI when it came to recruiting where it could be involved and, of course, I guess even searching, changing my search as a result of AI. But specifically, whenever I was at Boeing, and as far as I know, it's still the same thing there, is that we preset questions that all applicants are supposed to answer as part of the application process. And we preset those our answers ourselves in order to um, say as long as you answer this question this way, you'll continue in the process. But as soon as you answer a question that doesn't meet what we want, then it automatically boots you out the process. So there is that. And then there's also, of course, the human error part initially of if I put something in wrong initially, then all of a sudden I'm taking all these other people out of consideration, and that's human error. And then the other thing was that whenever, like, say, I forget what the exact tool's name was, but essentially we could do mass emailing where if we wanted to find people within with certain keywords in their resumes, we would look for those resumes. But the only problem is that we could very well be reaching out to people that, like, for instance, if I'm looking for recruiters if enough of the keywords are there, I could be reaching out to accountants in my mass emails without even knowing it and just bothering these people for the heck of it. And I know this personally because of certain keywords on my resume that people are plugging in. People are reaching out to me for accountant jobs. It's like I've hired accountants before, but I'm not an accountant myself. Um, so I would say overall, I mean, AI is definitely has a ways to go as far as being able to have the language that we're putting into it, and then being being as effective as we want we want it to be, because ultimately, and that was something that I tried to ask my internal company is that okay, we're using these AI tools and we're reaching out to these people that don't need to be reached out to, but it's happening because of the parameters that we're able to use with this AI tool. But we can't necessarily change anything at this time. People are just gonna if we continue to do these mass emails or use these different tools, people are gonna continue to be reached out to. So I mean, at least from my experience in recruiting, AI tools can be effective when it comes to reaching out to a wide audience. But at least where it is right now, I still trust myself over an AI tool in order to qualify people properly, to have real conversations with them. I mean, I mean, and plus, whenever we like, I don't know if either of you have been if you've ever applied to a position and have either of you had a virtual recruiter reach out to you yet?
Yeah.
I won't take that call.
Yeah,
Well,
exactly.
it's never been a call for me.
Mhm,
It's been, hi, I'm Jerome, and I found these 5 jobs for you. But
mhm,
I have a really quick question, if I can ask,
mhm,
or a statement.
mhm,
It's a statement. So yesterday, Mike and I had the pleasure of being on the same call, and one of the things that we were talking about was recruiting and great fit. And while we're talking about AI and technology, one of the people on the call said, I I like to have the candidate record their interview and send it to me because it saves me time. And
mhm,
I can tell if they're a good fit.
mhm,
What struck me about that is I, me, so we're looking through it from my lens. I interview people to make them comfortable.
mhm,
And I understand that when I'm interviewing them, they're already anxiety ridden. So I kind of bring down the pressure. I kind of show that I'm a real person.
mhm,
And if you're just talking into a camera, you
mhm,
don't know what version they're looking for. So how
mhm.
can you tell someone's a great fit based on a video that they send in? Can you answer that for me, Mr. Recruiter?
Yeah, I mean, thankfully I haven't needed to defend this because none of the companies I've recruited for, as far as I know, do those one-way videos. I've been on plenty of them myself. I don't like them either. I like talking to a recruiter face to face. That's just where you pretty much as you try to not have filler words when you speak. You try to sound like you know what you're talking about. Outside of that, and smile as smile as often as you can, really, and like as you're talking, smile. Think of something happy, so you seem upbeat and joyful. But yeah, when you don't have the face to face recruiter reactions and you can't read somebody, because, for instance, part of my job is whenever I'm interacting with candidates is I need to read the person that I'm recruiting to. I can't tell everybody all the information the same way. I can't
Absolutely.
like some people's selling points on a job can be way different from somebody else. If like for me, for one thing that I really don't like, when other recruiters have contacted me is that if they try to sound overly happy, about something and like, oh, it's so great, la, la, la," that type of voice pitch, and then later on in the process, I
Do
know
that
an
again.
immediate change.
Do the voice again, please.
That they had that high pitched voice, and then later on in the conversation they change it to a different tone. I'm like, so you want me to be genuine, but you're not genuine yourself. So
Yeah.
that's great. Anyway, but one thing I do want to add on top of that, those about AI, that this is like directly AI's fault, and luckily I stepped in and actually looked at everybody's application, because the one tool that I can really think of that, like, at least the version of it is now, it can potentially screw up a ton of candidates from even being considered. It's this platform called Smart Recruiters, where the whatever algorithm it's currently using right now, it'll take the main keywords that you're using for a job description, and it'll give everybody a score just based off of how, one, they answer the questions, and two, how their resume looks. And the thing is that I had over 300 applications for this one thing, but the thing was is that, and the score was like 1 to 100, and the thing was is that probably 10 of the people that I hired had a score of 30 or less, but they ended up having the skills that I needed them to have because I actually talked to them.
Yeah.
So if, like, you take it like that's probably the biggest example I can think of where AI, at least the way it is for that tool for Smart Recruiters, their candidate measuring is that if you have hundreds of applications, and I mean, you're gonna look at the idea is that you want to look at people who are 70, 80, 90 or above, but if you don't actually look at everybody, you might actually be missing out on, because I was sending over resumes of people that were 90 plus, and they're like, this person's terrible, why are you sending me this person?
Right.
And it's actually me doing the due diligence of actually get talking with these people and being like, okay, yeah, this, yeah, and then actually speaking to people that this AI tool rated them at a 30 or below, and again, we hired 10 of them. So I mean, AI can really mess things up for people if you're not paying attention to it.
Absolutely. I 100% agree.
I want to comment on a couple, like 4 things
Okay.
that you brought up. The first one was really what I had said about stuffing, if you will, the keywords. So you just said you hired people that had 30 or less based on the keyword, AI scoring. So that just shows, I mean, we don't really need to talk about AI anymore than that, almost, because it's like, there's a mismatch of qualified people that are getting very low AI scored resumes in the ATS, right?
Sure.
So that's number one. Number two, I was curious when you were talking about doing your searches in your database. I'm assuming it was a database you're doing a search on.
Right.
Well, in order to get the matches there, if I have an AI match, am I going to do better in your search? You see where I'm going with this?
Yeah, sure. I mean, exactly. I mean, it's the same thing with the database, is that because you'll also be thrown in, because depending on the capability of that database, for at least the ones I've looked at, is that it will, I ideally, the most sophisticated ones I've done with so far, if I'm just looking in a database, I'm typing in the keywords, like, it doesn't even, and it can show tens, hundreds, potentially thousands of people with all those words, and so your resume might get shoved at the bottom. And especially with recruiters who have a large workload, they're not going to spend a ton of time looking at all these different candidates. If you're just unlucky and your name is just lower on a list than somebody else's, because some recruiters, I mean, myself, my last position, I was working up to 5 jobs a day, and so I would be dedicating less than 2 hours every day to a different job. I would have to move on to another job if I had to have meaningful conversations with candidates, those take at least 20 minutes. So my time is even lessened. So, I mean, very well because of the database I'm looking at, based off of the keywords I type in, I might not come across the right people because, again, I have less than 2 hours to look at something. I have minimum 20-minute conversations I need to have with candidates to see if they work or not. And then plus, if I have other stuff, other pre-planned interviews that are stuff I have to do, like people can easily get thrown to the side. So I mean, not only is it AI tool that can make it more difficult, but it's also our workloads that can get in the way. And you know, AI doesn't always make that as efficient as we want it to be.
You're dovetailing perfectly with where I was going to go next. So the next one was, okay, so the AI and or the ATS or whatever mechanism you're using for selection, you're going to stop at a number, 100, 1,000, whatever. Right. And lately, because of people being let go, you literally can have thousands of people. Yeah. You know, and I might be the 1,000th person for whatever reason. I got to it late, whatever. I will never be seen. So I guess what I'm saying is, and you also hit on another thing. It's not just the tech people that are being let go, it's the recruiters, the internal recruiters. Mm-hmm. So now you have a lot of people trying to get at a job that the recruiters can't really do the sort of perfect selection for. Mm-hmm. So I don't have any solutions, by the way. I just see all of these issues. Like, I'll give you an example. When I was a hiring manager, I told my HR, do not use ATS, don't use anything. I want to see all resumes. Now, I was lucky back then we didn't get thousands of resumes. But I took the time to review them myself. But in the Workday thing, so that's in front of the internal HR. So we don't know how many that were removed from the consideration before the company. Yep. So and again, I don't know. I also wanted to bring up the AI interview. So you were kind of making some faces and stuff. Well, that's what they look at. The AI interview actually looks at your facial tics and all this other stuff. So you could be getting judged and get thrown out for no good reason. Yep. So all I'm saying is there's a lot of stuff going on with AI that I don't know. The HR teams, I think, need to be looking at this. They need to understand and maybe talk to some of us that are on the outside to say, what are you guys doing so that we can get a fair shake, I guess, and get the best qualified individual, because you may not be getting the best qualified individual.
I agree. Before we go further, Aaron Gibson has joined. He is famous. I just can't believe this, that he has actually. Do you know him, Peter?
Yeah, I'm familiar. I've met him briefly. I guess I officially met him on his birthday earlier this year, but I've been watching his live shows for a few months now.
Yeah, I want him to do my intro and outro. This has been very, very interesting. So I counted 4. Are your 4 questions up, or do you have? You're muted.
I would kind of be interested because I got the job that I talked to you about before, Bill, through an internal recruiter. He claimed that ATS never filtered any people out. I'm like, I find that hard. Yeah, but Peter, how can that be? I mean, I don't know. You tell me. I found that very hard to believe.
So say again what the recruiter said.
That the ATS didn't filter people.
Yeah, no.
Like that's the whole purpose of the ATS.
That's what Workday got sued about.
Yeah, I mean, if unless you really don't have very many candidates, and like you have whatever 50 candidates on a page, and you're they don't even have 50 candidates. I mean, you have to filter people in order to get some type of narrowed vision on who you would want to talk to. So yeah, to say candidate, well, maybe like initially, I mean, so I will say that it depends. So Boeing, yes, people got filtered out based off of the questions that they asked. Smart recruiters, whenever I worked with that, I could see everybody. Now, again, you got hundreds of people. You can't see everybody. But I mean, as far as like maybe like initial applications, as long as you're not like answering any questions on the application process that, like for instance, like even like LinkedIn Easy Apply, they can have questions about salary or if you can work somewhere or whatnot. I mean, most likely, if you're doing an application and you're not answering like any type of questions, like outside of the basic upload your resume, sometimes they'll ask you about they'll ask you about whether you need immigration or not. Are you authorized to work in the United States? I mean, as long as you're not answering like any like even yes, no, or open-ended questions, you technically shouldn't be filtered out of the initial process. But if you're looking for somebody in a database and you didn't apply to anything, they had to filter to find you unless they have so few of candidates in a database that there's no need for them to filter.
Yeah, I mean, I have to assume. I'm
Yeah.
sorry, particularly
Yeah.
like on these LinkedIn ones, you see like within hours, there's like hundreds or thousands in some cases. So I'm like, I know not all of those people are being considered. So
Yeah.
anyway, thank you.
Sure.
You're muted, Bill.
I don't know if all of them are being considered. This has been a very interesting conversation. I want to touch base really quick with Peter on this phenomenal job he did preparing me for an interview. And then I went, and it was terrible. So I killed the Zoom call, right? I got the in-person interview. Actually, it's two. So the one you prepared me to was crazy. So it was a 3-person panel. I think everyone was in their 30s. One of the guys said to me, this is one that you and I did. One of the guys said, I said, "Oh, you're awfully quiet." He literally said, "I don't want to say anything negative." So you're in the middle of talking to someone and they say, "I don't want to say anything negative." How do you respond to that? So I didn't, but I held it. And I believe that the person I would be reporting to and I were way on the same page. But the other two, I would have been colleagues with. And I believe that it was this was like a director of customer service position. And I love customer service. It's where I start. Mike and I again had an entire conversation about it yesterday about how it changes the brand. I struggle between, am I intimidating or am I bad? Because you don't know where it is. But I got a real quick no after that, after the interview. But when I spoke, when I had my one-on-one with the person that ran the department, I would be reporting to, I had the Zoom call within minutes, like, we want you in. So how do you navigate that? Like, I'm always concerned because we are not our titles, right? We're human beings. We let's not be dumb, right? We need an income.
Yeah.
I can definitely say this about both Mike and I. We're not job jumpers, so we're not going to come on board, accept something, and then look for something else, because I don't like looking for a job. Like, I do not like, it's not my jam. I don't like doing it. It's like I'm a vampire, and that's like the stick to my soul that will burst me into flames. So who is supposed to show up? And I can't be anyone but myself.
Right.
You know, I can't be anyone but myself. And I think you and I shared a few stories about, you know, tell me about challenges was one of the questions. And I shared 3 that were like never before, unheard of, death involved, international, getting bodies back, suicide, you know, that I all had to react to at 3 different companies. And the gentleman that was interviewing me said, or one of the colleagues said, well, I hear what you just said, but, you know, that doesn't tell me about, you know, if you're able to scale a day-to-day operation. And my response was, I was able to deal with these things because I had scaled my day-to-day operation. I had created an environment where I was contacted before it actually got to the press. You know, imagine someone commits suicide on a live chat, and you're a social media company, and that gets out to the press before you can get it done. I had to contact the police. We had to give the IP address. We had to get that feed disconnected. And then we had to talk to all of the people that saw that happen to make sure that they were emotionally okay. I had a guy that died in a pool in Cancun on one of my events, and I had to get the body back, and I had 400 other people that were sitting there, and we had to decide, how do we make this trip work? We're 2 days in. You know, so I never know who is supposed to show up. And to me, those, and the other one had to do with pedophilia, Michael. To me, those were issues that show how strong of a leader I am, how diverse my background is, and how I'm able to think on my feet in order to save the brand. But the question was, well, how do you deal with day-to-day operations? So I answered it. You know, I answered it, but to me, that was the dumbest question. Like take in what I just told you.
But Bill, can I interject here?
Go ahead.
And this is maybe even for Aaron, but for Peter, what I'm finding is many, not all, but many are interrogations. They're not discussions. And if you're expecting to find out who I am and what I'm capable of in an interrogation, it's not it's really not a fruitful way to go about it. And so number one, I've had multiple panel interviews, and they're not friendly to the candidate. They really aren't. And I'm like, unless you are in a position where you're going to be, I don't know, air traffic controller or something, and you're going to have to deal with things, bing, 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 bing. If that's part of the job, then that's fine. But if you're setting this up, and in essence, to see how well I handle pressure, and while I'm trying to sell myself, it just seems like we're at loggerheads.
So
you know, and to Bill's point, so So Bill is basically, first of all, you don't even know what the frame is, right? So you're trying to do the best thing to frame, and to be honest, Bill, sometimes what I do is I reframe. I'm just like, time out. I need to understand what you're looking for in this position. And then what I'd like to do is discuss what I can bring. Is that fair? Okay, so let's talk about that. If you're just saying, what are 3 things? I'm like, well, I need a frame. I like, what are you looking for? What kind of response are you looking for? Because I don't want to guess.
But for me, Mike, where that becomes difficult, and I want to tell Peter one more answer I gave, which I think may have been wrong. Where it becomes difficult is my career is so vast that I need to figure out where you need me to pull from. Because when you're talking about KPIs, that's something that I do in my sleep. When you're talking about team building, that's something I do in my sleep. If you want something that says, give me an example of like something really, really extreme, okay, I have those too, but the day-to-day part of it, the department was written up in Forbes magazine for being a key differentiator for the brand. That was my day-to-day operation. When the reporter came in, the reporter literally came to and said, who do I sit with? And I said, you can sit with anyone because you're going to get the same type of service from anyone you sit with, because I was confident. I didn't need to represent the department. The department represented itself, but I built the department from scratch. But here's my Peter. Here's the answer that I think fucked me up. The person I reported to said, give me an example when you were a new manager and you had to deal with conflict, and what you had to do with conflict, and
what was the result?
And pretty much. And my answer was, that is I said, respectfully, that question is very difficult for me because you're asking me to go 30 years back to when I became a new manager. But what I can tell you is that what I've learned throughout my career is that I don't need to be aggressive in order to get results. Because as a new manager, we've all been there, right? You feel like, I'm the manager, I told you to do something, so you should do it. That doesn't work. You get pushback. So instead, what I do is I build a team and I get feedback from the team, and everyone is supported from a team. And we're all working towards a common goal, whether it's in my department or a cross-functional team that I'm dealing with. I found that to be a good answer. However, I did say that's a hard one for me because I don't remember what people don't remember what you said, but they remember how you made them feel, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember a specific situation from 30 years ago. I do remember that I butted heads because I was promoted from within. So now you're leading people that you were once coworkers with. And I thought because I had the position, I needed to be a little bit more aggressive. Do it. As I grew in my position and I became more comfortable, I recognized that you don't have to yell. You don't have to be right. You can listen to other people. You can bring them in instead of pushing them away. And that's what I bring to the table. So I answered the question, but I didn't have a specific, because there were multiples. I butted heads. And that happens with anyone, or most. I don't want to say anyone because that's a generalization. That happens to most people when you are promoted internally and have been colleagues with someone for 5 years, and now you're their boss.
Yeah, I mean, the first part of the answer, great. Anybody with half a mind who wants somebody to be successful in any type of director role would love that answer. my only thought is that I don't know, did you ask them at all if they had interviewed other people before you?
They had interviewed, they had 50 interviews.
Mhm,
So I know that.
mhm,
Um, but and sometimes we need to put our ego aside, but I'm damn good at what I do.
sure.
And I am, I keep going back to Mike. Mike and I had this conversation yesterday. I'm really great and sincere, and I am employee focused as well as member or customer focused. So I'm going to treat our internal customers the same way I'm going to treat our outside customer, which is with dignity and respect, which in the end will
Mhm,
build a better brand. And
mhm,
that's what you're trying to do. So in my humble opinion, I could kill it.
mhm,
But when the gentleman said, I don't want to say anything negative, that was a shutdown to the interview for me. I mean,
mhm,
I kept going,
mhm,
I kept, giving it my best, great answers, very confident, very secure, still humble. Um, but that reaction, if I
mhm,
told Mike right now, I'm going to stay silent because and not respond to you because I don't want to say anything negative. What I just told Mike was he's unimportant and this is a waste of my time.
mhm,
And I don't know how you can look at my resume or listen to me speak
mhm,
and think that I'm not qualified. So how could this be anyone's waste of time?
mhm. I guess my thoughts are on that question of, you know, the only thought could be is that they didn't like the generalization of what you did, and if they've interviewed X amount of people before you that had directly answered the question, they're gonna think, "Well, these people directly did what I wanted them to do." That's my only thought there. Your answer is very good because you can say, like you said, "Over all this time, I've learned X, Y, and Z, and this is the best way to do this with conflict." Um, and then with that person saying that I can't think of anything, I don't want to say anything bad about you. Um,
Anything negative?
I, or negative. I appreciate I would appreciate the bluntness from the guy, and then I also be mad. So it depends on yeah, it definitely depends on your mindset in that situation,
Yeah.
because some people
And,
will
and
shut down.
and this is coming from, oh, please, everyone forgive me, but this is coming from a very junior person.
Mhm. Yeah,
You know,
well, the way I would have done it, because because like I'm you, I know that I'm good at what I do, and so what I would have done, and if the situation ever comes up again, you can do or not do what I would do, but I would directly challenge them and say why, because part of being a director at any level is you need kind of like how your question about the conflict thing is that, well, since you asked me about conflict already, let's talk about, we obviously have a conflict here right now, and so then you use that same approach of what you were talking about with handling conflict earlier into figuring out, okay, so we obviously have a conflict here because you're saying I don't want to say anything negative. So here's where I'm going to show you how I resolve conflict right here. So
but
there's
you,
that.
but
But
you
yeah.
know what? So I did respond to him,
Mhm.
and I said, I don't consider any questions negative. We're having a
Mhm.
discussion.
Mhm.
So that's kind of what I mean, I didn't say
Sure.
why. I
Yeah.
said what could be negative when we're
Sure.
having a discussion, you know,
Sure.
and remember, my platform is you be you. So
Mhm.
I'm very much into say what you want to say, and let's figure it out. I didn't go that
Mhm.
far, but I did say you're not going to hurt my feelings, and we're having a discussion, so there should be nothing negative about it. But anyway, God pushes you towards, or the universe, or
That's what's
Buddha,
supposed to happen.
pushes you towards the right direction. I wish he pushed me a little bit faster.
Right. I'm right there with you.
Yeah.
Bill, the answer is yes, no, not yet, or not in the way you think.
Yes, no, not yet. No. Okay. So
or not in the way you think. Answer to prayer.
Okay.
But I would like to know, because I'm thinking of a situation where, in essence, my integrity was questioned almost directly, and it really put me on the back foot. And actually, another gentleman, because it was at least it was multi-panel, and they were supposed to be peers. I'd already interviewed with my potential boss, and I think that's the interview that knocked me out of the running, if they were interested at all. It's a long story, and I don't want to go into it, but I think they already had someone picked, or they had a type of person that they wanted. So I wasn't really in the running, but he basically questioned. So I was the CISO, and we had around 360 billion under service. And I mean, that's a number you can go research. It's not like something I didn't feel that I had to defend. And I'm like, we had large clients, but what it did is at least the way my brain works is, I say, like, Bill, the answer, or the issue is very rarely the issue. Meaning, he said that because of something else, and so it really put me on my back foot. And I think the only way around that, to your to your issue, is kind of take it direct and say, so is this, just out of curiosity, are you not necessarily believing the number, or that, what can we talk about? Can you expand on that, maybe? and I think that might have, and I'm not into, I don't want to play power politics, certainly in an interview, or have to foil, play, because I used to fence. So
yeah,
I don't want to have.
You also don't want to go into something already where there's animosity, or there's some type
yeah.
There was something there which we can't touch on because we're not in someone else's head. We're not therapists, but there was definitely something there that I was not giving. And I understand, when Peter and I get into arguments, I understand it's always him. So I wasn't giving I wasn't giving any negative energy. I was as positive as can be, and still I got shit on.
Yeah,
anyway.
I look at that, in all seriousness, Bill. I look at that as learning experience. I ask, was there anything I needed to learn? If not, then say la vie.
Yeah.
Do this.
Yeah, I did the say la vie, and I have taken a vacation from looking for a job, and now I'm going to start looking again. It's been 2 weeks, I think. So, doing the 4th of July, it didn't make any sense, and late June didn't make any sense. People were vacationing and stuff. So now I'm going to ramp back up, and Aaron Gibson's hopefully going to give me a platform where people can see me and hire me. Yay! Superstar. Peter's too young to remember that. All right. Anyway, anything else we need to talk about? Because it has been 2 hours and 14 minutes of absolutely wonderful conversation. I need to get to Miss Main and let her know I did use her snippet on our show today. So hopefully she's okay with it. Otherwise, we'll take it out. But final thoughts from any of you guys?
It's a crazy world.
It's a crazy world.
That's about all I can say to wrap it all up.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to leave you with my life saying, which is life happens for you, not to you.
There you go.
And it really helped me adjust my thinking when you get put on the back foot. When, we didn't really talk about what to do about ageism. And I think, my answer to that is just, I'm going to go in and let them know what my value is. I know what
Yeah.
my value is. You know what your value is. I'm going to apprise
But
them
what
of
if
my
you're not
value.
even getting that? But we're not even getting to first base. Are you?
That's a whole nother discussion, which I'm working on, by the way.
Okay.
And a way around that. But it's basically the old boys network, for lack of a better word.
Okay.
Or developing networking, is another
Okay.
way to think about it. Because in my mind, that I think moving forward, and this is a bit afield, but I think we're entering a gig economy sooner than later, and I think we need to prepare for that. Yeah, we can work on that for season 4. Yeah, and so for me, it's just getting in, getting my value prop, really polished, looking at my ICPs, and executing, and that's where I'm at. So
Perfect. So, Peter, did you already answer?
I guess the one thing I will say is, treat others the way you want to be treated. World would be a lot better place if we were nicer to each other.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I told you I appreciate you for being my friend, and I thank you for showing up, and you're always just a breath of fresh air.
Thank you.
100%. Mike, you and I can do a show, just the two of us, on ageism, and bring some other people in. And you're always welcome, my friend. Thank you so much. Thank you, Aaron Gibson, for showing up. I appreciate that. Kenneth Dunner, I missed you, but I'm sure you'll watch a rerun. Michael LeBlanc is already here. Daniel Berndenwig, April Bowman. And I would like to introduce you, Peter, to April Bowman. She's fantastic. She's also a recruiter, and she happens to be looking at the moment. This has been a great, Jackie Halberg. This has been a great conversation for me. It's kind of cathartic, to speak to people that are walking through with positivity as they try to figure out their next step. And I think that's what all of us are doing. We make it look easy. We know that it's not, but I think all of us have better days ahead of us than we had behind us. So we're just going to go forward with great energy, support. I'll look out for you, Peter. I'll look out for you, Mike. If I see something, I'll say something, and hopefully the universe will do the same for me. That's it. You guys, I am on Spotify, Apple Podcast, YouTube Live, LinkedIn Live, Facebook Live, and I'm on Substack. So we should think about how I can actually promote those things, but that's for another conversation as well. I love everybody. Thank you guys very much for showing up. I appreciate it. You guys have a good night.
thanks so much, sir. It's a pleasure as
Bye,
always.
Bill.
Bye.